They could bring back. I can't remember its name. The really shit PlayStation 4 launch title. The Order. That were it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to. Why do I start coughing? Why do I start coughing every time? WCCF Tech Podcast. WCCF
Can we
Tech
call him
Podcast.
the Coughcast?
The cough.
I'm gonna say it's feeling like that at the moment. So yeah, WCCF Tech Podcast. I'm coughing still, after effects of the Rona, and we've got Francesco and Alessio, both COVID free.
Yeah.
Lucky bastards.
Yeah.
As far as we know, anyway.
Well, you're not showing side effects anyway.
No.
No.
So let's. Quick mention, obviously, because you just mentioned it before recording. Yes, me being British, the Queen died. Not good. I've never been a royalist, but it's still a sad moment when anybody. Well, she probably was the most famous person on the planet. All things considered, not even
Yeah.
like on the currency of 20 plus countries, and technically the head of state of all the Commonwealth, and still just being there as part of the UK, as the head of the UK for 70 years, a life of service that, well. And just done it with dignity, where politicians all fuck up. I mean, you compare the Queen to Boris, and you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
So, aside from that, my Englishness put aside, we'll talk about the video games, and we'll talk about. Well, let's start with Sony and Microsoft, because they're not happy, are they? Or somebody's not happy. Sony aren't happy.
Yeah. I think last week we may have referenced Phil Spencer. After the competition authority over there in the UK, they called for an in-depth review of the Activision deal. Spencer, Microsoft's head of gaming, basically went public and said, we sent out a signed letter to Sony stating that we are prepared to make Call of Duty available on PlayStation platforms for several years beyond the existing contracts. And so this week Sony actually replied with Jim Ryan, who is the head of Sony Interactive Entertainment, and basically he wasn't very happy. So he basically said, Phil Spencer brought this publicly, so I need to set the record straight. And he said that Microsoft only offered an extension of 3 years after the current agreement between Activision and Sony.
Yeah.
And he also added that Sony felt, they still feel, their proposal to be inadequate on many levels and fails to account for the impact on PlayStation gamers. So,
I mean, I can see his argument, but it's just, it's same as I've said before. That's why there's issues about the massive consolidation of the games industry, especially with Microsoft buying so many. But at the same time, Sony's not really got much of a right to complain. How many times do they buy exclusives? I just, I just don't feel, yeah.
I mean, just sticking with Activision, they've been making exclusive deals for DLC or even specific modes with both Destiny and Call of Duty for a long time. Like I think a Black Ops mode was exclusive to PlayStation, and then also Destiny add some exclusive dungeons for PlayStation. So that's just a little example sticking with Activision, but there's been a lot more of this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of hypocritical.
It's very hypocritical.
It feels like this is a last attempt to stop the acquisition. Not really stop, with the regulators and all that. Seems like, they're just always saying the same thing that about having Call of Duty off PlayStation is detrimental to everyone.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know.
Sony. We all know that.
Yeah, when Sony started that stupid narrative for the players, it wasn't probably just marketing. They probably wanted to appear as if they care about the industry as a whole, and then use that when was needed. And this seems like, attempt to use it, because I don't think they're going to get anything from these statements other than other than feeling like crybabies or something. I don't think they're getting much.
I think it's an inevitability. I think the deal will happen, and yeah, I think it is an inevitability, and Sony's just going to lose out eventually on Call of Duty, and that's why if they want to compete, they need to buy something different.
Yeah.
I mean, they could revive. They have their own shooter IPs that they haven't really been using in years.
Yeah.
Killzone
back, or Mag. I remember that.
Yeah, also Resistance by Insomniac was pretty good.
They could bring back I can't remember its name. The really shit PlayStation 4 launch title. The Order, that were it.
That was the first person shooter.
No, but just bring it back anyway for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Also, it was single player, but yeah.
Or even better, just don't worry about shooters, because yes, people play shooters, but I don't think they're console sellers. I suppose some people might buy a console because there's certain shooters on it, but do what I've been saying they'll end up doing for a long time: buy Square Enix.
Well, Square Enix certainly isn't going to help you with the shooters.
No, but
don't let them make them. Don't let them.
But you just can't. All you do is you lose the shooters, but you just conquer the market on RPGs or JRPGs anyway.
Well, it would almost be like they were going back in time, because during the first PlayStation, the second PlayStation generation, that was what Sony was about.
Yeah, I was saying. And there's a reason why Sony sold, 100 plus million PlayStation 2s. It's because it had a wealth of games on it and a lot of variety of games. They can still get the shooters, just make sure you lock down over certain games.
Well, they bought Bungie, so they're probably going to do something with them.
Yeah, there you go. Bungie can make a shooter.
Yeah, though they've said that, that future Bungie games will also be multi-platform. But we'll see.
Yeah.
If maybe
things can change.
Maybe they will. Yeah, although I think Bungie, as they're not independent, but I think they, in the deal they've made with Sony, they have retained quite a bit of say, in what they are going to do.
Yeah.
So
sadly, that can be what's said now, but there's nothing in a contract that Bungie will be able to invoke saying we get to decide what we do with your money. Eventually, it comes down to the fact that Sony are the people who hold the money. So Bungie will eventually just have to do what Sony say. I think they'll give Bungie that freedom, though, to just do what they want. to an extent. But I think your live service games like Destiny, they'll be multi-platform. But if Bungie make another game similar to Halo, we'll say, that will be a PlayStation exclusive, or PlayStation and then a year later on the PC.
Yeah, even exclusive DLC modes, like Alessio said.
Yeah.
Before.
I think with regards to PC, I don't think there will be any exclusive, even from Sony's side, because they made it clear that live service games will even have crossplay, and I think pretty much.
Yeah, I just mean like a general first-person single-player game, not live service, whatnot. If Bungie made one of those.
Yeah, I doubt it, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting. But like you said, even Francesco said, at this point it feels like Sony is just complaining for the sake of it, because it doesn't really have many hopes to block this.
As I said, it's not for the sake of it. They're complaining just so they can try and get more out of it in the long run. It's only going to be for so long, though. The reality is that by 2030, Call of Duty will be a Microsoft exclusive, console exclusive. 100% guarantee that. The most that will happen is, I don't think the deal will get blocked, but the most will happen is there'll be a sort of saying, they'll say, well, okay, you've got to put the Call of Duty and other games on Sony consoles for 5 years after the current agreement. It'll not be in perpetuity.
That way they'll have lots of time to come up with alternatives.
Yeah.
Wow.
They will come up with duty of call.
Okay. On that note, I think we can jump on the next topic. CD Projekt Red, Francesco, enlighten.
Finally, they've announced the first and only expansion for Cyberpunk 2077, which is Phantom Liberty. And I think the biggest news, other than the announcement of the expansion, is that they're leaving old generation consoles behind, because this is the last update, the one they released last week.
Yeah,
it's going to be the final one for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, Xbox One X, and it was about time, because I know that people like to shit on this game and everything, but I think many of the issues were due to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions. Maybe. Yeah, when you have to spend time optimizing for hardware that is absolutely not capable of running that game, you could have used that time for other things.
Oh, that I agree with, but to be fair, I don't think they spent that much time optimizing it.
Well, no, but they still had to try to get a functioning game. They failed, but I think they at least tried, because I know I know those bugs were also in the PC version, but I didn't get any crashes for 80 hours that I played, and I played at launch. So
I had a few crashes, but yeah.
I had the wonky physics. They were actually they were funny, to be honest, because you see things flying around and everything. There were other issues, and they fixed them, because they changed the balance, they reworked the skill tree, and so they had other issues, but the game was playable on PC at least.
Yeah,
and I played it on my old, old PC. I had a 980 Ti, so it wasn't the latest GPU around.
I've got to admit, I just think I think when it comes to Cyberpunk, I suppose it's just lost, because it came out so badly broken, and it was. I mean, I didn't suffer anywhere near as much as a lot of people did, so I was able to play it reasonably well. But it's I think I just I've lost interest. I don't think I'll be going back to it. And it does. I mean, I find it weird that, and maybe I was expecting too much. I'll rail on gambling in games, especially real world gambling, for so long, but a city like Night City should have had casinos. It should have felt more alive, and for me, I
Yeah.
suppose it didn't.
The problem is that they just overpromised before release.
Yeah.
They were just saying this. They were making people expect another GTA in a cyberpunk setting. But to be honest, I remember when we watched the E3 2019 presentation. That's the game we got to play.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a small slice, but that was the game we got to play.
Well, I'm saying.
So it was just them. It was just the marketing that was all wrong because
Yeah,
they made
Gamescom
people.
at 2020 was very similar, and I do remember it's like, and I do remember the bit of the falsehood when it came to the marketing and what they were showing, where especially in a room where with all the press, and they'll say, right, okay, which path do you want to take? And I clearly remember the people like the journos in the room putting their hand up for the second path, and they still took the first one. It was so massively scripted that it wasn't. I don't think it was completely representative of the game because there was no any bugs. They just worked like hell on that section.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
but
combat.
generally it was that. I mean, I remember that. I remember playing the quest that we got to see like 3 years ago, and
Yeah.
that was it. Though, yeah, the bugs and everything else, but that was the game we got to play eventually.
No, if you go back, I mean, there aren't any interviews with developers. I mean, actual developers where they said, "Oh, we're going to have this," and well, maybe with the exception of wall jumping, wall climbing, whatever. But there aren't that many, GTA-like features that they promised. Like you said, it was mostly marketing, maybe, but not the developers themselves. And well, interestingly, they've also said in this update that they are also going to overhaul the police system, which is one of the main complaints of those who wanted more GTA-like experience, and also vehicle-to-vehicle combat should be improved. I don't think they've said whether it's coming with the expansion or not, but it should be coming with the future updates. And yeah, also interestingly, they released the official modding tools. So previously, modders, they used an unofficial tool they made themselves. So this should make it easier to make mods in the game. And also, CD Projekt Red pretty much said they are committed to the series going forward. So I guess that opens up the possibility of a sequel at some point. Although I'm not sure when that could be, because they've also said that the Witcher games, there are multiple Witcher games in production. So I think a cyberpunk game would be very, very far in the future, like
in 2077.
Maybe not, but 2030,
yeah, 2030.
Something like that.
We will see. Yeah.
Well, they didn't say. They said multiple the Witcher games, but they didn't say how big these are, and it's pretty much what they've started doing after releasing The Witcher 3, because we got all those Gwent spin-offs. So it could probably be something like they got their main game and then they got smaller spin-off game. I don't see them doing multiple big games one after the other. I don't think they're going to. Well, especially after their reputation was tanked by Cyberpunk 2077, I think they're going to be very careful, because that is their main franchise now. well, it's always been their main franchise anyway, and it's more popular than ever thanks to the Netflix show and all that and all that stuff. So I think they're probably going to slow down and make sure everything is fine before committing to multiple big projects.
Yeah, they're going to need to. Yeah, they are definitely going to need to. But who knows? I just, I, I, I think the only thing for me is when it comes to CD Projekt Red is that I'm just going to be a little wary of their future releases. It'll just be a case of not getting hyped anymore.
Yeah, well, don't believe the marketing. Just watch the trailers. Pretty much.
It was just a studio where they'd done so good in the past, and they'd generally been good. You know, they'd generally, The Witcher launched at bug. It had its issues at launch, but it was nothing. Witcher 3, nothing compared to how bad Cyberpunk was at launch. And so it's just a case now of being just more careful around trusting them. I'll give them the chance, but it won't be a case of me saying, they've done so well in the past and they've proven that they can do it. Now, maybe not, because they've still not really fixed. I mean, the fact that they've still not fixed the police issue in Cyberpunk is damning enough.
Yeah.
How long's the game been out? What? 4, 5, 8 years?
2 years. This December is 2 years.
Yeah.
That's not good.
It was delayed. It was delayed like 4 times.
I know, and that's sort of the point. The fact that something so fundamental as the police and the fact that they just appeared out of the ether is...
they disappear. The problem is they disappear out of the ether too.
Yeah, the fact that they've not managed to fix something as simple as that. Well, not simple, but something as core and fundamental to the game as that.
They had more important stuff to fix, like getting the game to run properly.
I suppose though, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just 2 years later, it's still not fixed, and the roadmap, the content, the everything else is still not being delivered. So
I think they just had to, patch up whatever they could and just call it a day, pretty much.
I'd get the feeling that Cyberpunk will not be another No Man's Sky. I just think it's going to cost too much, and it's not going to be worth the cost eventually. They'll do what they can to regain some of the goodwill back, but I think sadly Cyberpunk is going to be one of those that it's going to be not Anthem, but yeah.
No, but now that they have left the previous generation consoles behind, maybe now they can start doing some different types of fixes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We have to see. We have to see what the expansion adds too, because the Witcher 3 expansions even had the new mechanics other than the new areas and all that. So
they did fantastic. They probably with the Witcher 3, which is
they probably have more. They don't have to worry about having to make what they're doing work on very dated hardware now. By 2023, it has become ancient, almost ancient.
10 years old. But
so.
Yeah. So let's move on.
Is it going to be a free update? That's the one thing.
No, it's a paid expansion.
Yeah, well, there we go. That's sort of proving exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. Nah. Yeah, exactly what I thought. They've lost the failure that was Cyberpunk 2077. It sold well, but the refunds and everything else they ended up having to do, that's cost them a lot of money.
Yeah.
Actually, the refunds were way less than one would have thought.
No, I know they weren't as much, but it's when you account for the number of sales, then subtract probably I wouldn't be surprised if the number of refunds hit 500,000, if not a little bit more.
I don't think they've been so damaged, because I remember like a couple of weeks ago, it was a bestseller on Steam, and it's been up, and it's been pretty much up for a long time.
No,
So I
it's
don't know.
not.
I don't know what's going on.
Chris likes to pile on stuff, but it was no failure. That's just a myth.
I'm not saying it was a
They make
failure.
it.
I'm not
It's
saying it
just
was a failure, but it's just
You know,
more the
it,
fact
it's
that yeah.
it's still selling. I suppose quite well if it is in the top Steam sellers. So I
I
suppose it's
mean,
still selling.
yeah, it is, and also it was, I think, when it came back on the PlayStation Store, it was one of the best-selling PS games, PSN games for the month. So
Yeah, I think
it's
yeah, just reading something I remember reading the cost to CD Projekt Red in the Cyberpunk refunds, not ones done by clicking Steam and clicking refund. There was help me refund. The cost to CD Projekt Red was $51.2 million. That was the cost in 2020. So it wasn't. I'm not saying it was a failure, but it's not. That's not a small amount of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it just is what it is. I want all games to be good. I've always said that. I want every game to be good, and I want them all to be made with good practices and not by murdering the staff. Sadly, Cyberpunk did not achieve any of those
Yeah.
aims at the time. Will it get there? Potentially. Not the not killing staff thing. That's been and gone. They've slaughtered their own staff for it, and it due to shit management. But hopefully the game can be good. So anyway, let's go to you.
like I was saying, Francesco's favorite topic: acquisitions.
Yeah, wow. Well, it's not really an acquisition though this time. At least
Yeah.
not a full one.
Yeah. So basically, as per the rumors, Tencent confirmed that they will acquire basically a stake, not in Ubisoft, but in Guillemot Bros, which is the company run by Ubisoft's co-founders, which has the largest stake in Ubisoft. So basically, it is an indirect way to gain not full control, but to gain quite a bit of control on Ubisoft, I guess. And and that led Ubisoft's shares to rally about 14% that day. And certainly the Guillemots made quite a bit of money in the process.
Not kidding.
Yeah, I think we talked about it in an earlier podcast. They were being given something like $100 per share or something. That was the rumor, at least. We don't know if that turned out to be true.
Yeah, $80 it's worked out at.
Yeah. So, well, still a lot of money. And well, like Francesco said, it is not a full acquisition, but once again, Tencent is increasing its its control in one of the biggest publishers. So
yeah, it's a weird way to do it, though. It is it's a weird way to try, because in reality, it doesn't directly increase their any control over Ubisoft. In fact, they don't even get a say on what happens in the Guillemot brothers side of things. It's a very weird one.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, with nearly 40% in their own, holding company, that they must get a say of some sort with the Guillemots.
So, from what it says, so now So Tencent have invested 300 million, 200 in cash and 200 in cash, 100 in direct capital investment in the Guillemot Brothers holding company, but that's equivalent to 49.9%. Now, considering there's only two shareholders, there's the brothers owning 50.1% and then Tencent holding 49.9%. If it comes to a vote, there's two votes, and the biggest percentage wins. So Tencent officially, unless they went to a court of law, if the Guillemot brothers were doing something extremely stupid and self-sabotaging, which, to be fair, is quite entirely possible by covering up for rape, Tencent wouldn't really have a say in how the Guillemot brothers holding company vote goes into Ubisoft. It's like a weird pyramid scheme.
Maybe they just wanted to make some money this time. I
think essentially that's all will happen is the Tencent will get dividends based on their direct shareholdings of Ubisoft, and now whatever dividends are paid to the Guillemot brothers holding company, which then pays the brothers, Tencent will get 49.9% of that money.
Yeah.
So they're what they've done is, because under French law, whenever a certain share threshold has been reached, it's mandatory by law to essentially try to buy a company out. If for Tencent to have gone, if they didn't want to buy Ubisoft outright, they would have had to sell to the threshold limit. This is, as far as my knowledge, how it used to be. I don't know if it's changed. So basically,
now, you're saying they couldn't have increased their share in Ubisoft directly without purchasing
a certain amount, yes, to a certain amount, as far as I'm aware, yeah. I'll have a limit. I'll have a look while we're talking, but as far as I'm aware. But yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. Moving on to the games, Ubisoft also held a showcase event yesterday. Well, they demonstrated lots of games, and the biggest part, though, was clearly dedicated to Assassin's Creed, which is celebrating its 15th anniversary this year, by the way. And they have multiple projects, and they also have the live action TV series in production with Netflix. But with regards to the games, we already knew quite a bit from rumors and leaks, but now we have a clearer view. So basically, next year we're going to play Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is set in 9th century Baghdad, and starring Basim, one of the characters featured in Valhalla. And interestingly, this is basically going to be a more traditional Assassin's Creed game. So it's not going to be like huge, and it's not going to have RPG elements. So it's going to focus more on assassination, stealth, and they've also said that Basim basically, just like in the first game, for example, Altair really couldn't take many hits. It was not meant to be a game about direct combat, and that this is going to be similar with Mirage. So you're basically going to have to use traps, even some sort of mines, deception, stealth, and whatever to assassinate your targets. And also we basically are returning to a city setting that's going to be very dense, compared to the more recent games that focused on large open maps. And it seems to have had an interesting response from fans, but that's also really only the tip of the iceberg of what they're working on. Mirage basically will be the last game in the series that's not going to be in Assassin's Creed Infinity. And one good thing that we learned from this showcase is that Infinity is not going to be a live service game. It's not even a game per se. It's actually basically a launcher or a platform from where all of the future Assassin's Creed games will be launched, basically.
So it's going to be a subscription service for Assassin's Creed?
No.
Oh, good.
It's going to be just like, they have described it as basically you're going into the Animus. And from the Animus, basically you can launch different, histories, such as, for example, the first one will be, it's called Codename Red, and it's finally Assassin's Creed going to feudal Japan, which is something that fans have wanted for a long time. And then there will be another game which is called Exe. And this one should be set in 16th century Holy Roman Empire during the time of witch trials. So basically, they have said that the first game, the Japanese game, set in Japan, it's going to be like Valhalla, so it's going to be an open world RPG. But the other game, Exe, will be different. So basically, a bit more like Mirage. So from the sounds of it, they are basically splitting Assassin's Creed in the RPG formula and the traditional formula. That way, I guess they are hoping to make both fans of both sides happy with different titles.
Is it me, or does the Codename Red one just sound like Ghost of Tsushima?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a little too late now. We already have Assassin's Creed Red. It's Ghost of Tsushima. Well, to be fair, they're highlighting now. This is you're going to play as pretty much as a ninja.
Yeah.
Well, even in Ghost of Tsushima, you can be a ninja because if you play stealthily, you play as a ninja.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to see. We will see. It's the setting that will probably make the difference because Ghost of Tsushima is a small island with a very peculiar history.
Yeah.
And then we're going to see.
Right. So essentially, Assassin's Creed Ghost of Fukushima.
Yeah, in the nuclear reactor.
But and also they have said that they are working on an open world game for mobile. This will be set in ancient China. So, well, that makes sense because mobile games are extremely popular in China. And
as long as they don't set it during the Three Kingdoms era, because then I will be pissed off because I'm not playing a free-to-play mobile sort of let's loot your wallet game, even if it's Three Kingdoms.
Mm-hmm. And they have also mentioned that they are working on standalone multiplayer experiences. So basically, they're going to do something like Warzone, I think, in that they're going to have a standalone multiplayer experience that is not tied to a specific installments.
So in other words, just Assassin's Creed Brotherhood multiplayer, but on its own.
Yeah, probably free to
They've
play.
run out.
Yeah.
They've just run out of ideas, haven't they?
Well, I think they ran out of ideas years ago.
Yeah, to be fair, they did. You're right.
I mean, they're decent games, the last three, but they're clearly not original at all. Like the Witcher 3 formula with bad RPG mechanics. At least Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because there was level gating and that kind of stuff, and it was annoying. But they toned it down with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But the Ubisoft design is still a problem with all those useless question marks on the map, kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Oh, the good news is that if you don't like those kind of games, now they will also be offering more streamlined and also less bloated games. For example, Mirage, they've basically said it won't be a very long game. And they've actually gone out and said not every Assassin's Creed game will be 100 hours like Valhalla or Odyssey. So there will be smaller games.
But they were only 100 hours because they weren't 100 hours if you actually paid the extra money so you could level up.
To be fair, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is very long, even if you don't do the side stuff. There's a lot of story quests. There's a lot of it. Even without expansions and even without checking all those question marks for you found money, you found a chunk of iron to upgrade your stuff. But it was very it was long, even without everything else.
Yeah, and also there is one last tidbit, and basically they said, for example, in Mirage, there's not going to be any playable modern day segments.
Oh no!
So, yeah,
I am
Did anyone care about that? Did anyone care? Well, maybe in the past games, but in the recent ones.
I think that's the thing, because the fan base seems to be a bit split on this one, because of course in some of the previous games they failed to make these modern segments interesting. That's for sure.
I think they failed to make it interesting in most games.
Yeah, but at the same time, as kind of a wrapper of Assassin's Creed, I think it worked very well, in theory at least. The premise was interesting. Yeah. But I don't think the solution is to kind of scrap it, almost nearly scrap it, because then Assassin's Creed then becomes just like, kind of an anthology of games in various settings without an overarching narrative, which, if they did it well, it could be very good, I think, if they did it well.
Yeah. Well, it worked in the first few games, but after they were done with the Ezio games, I think they just lost it really. And then in the RPG ones, it's there, but it's not really that interesting. At least in my opinion, it's not that interesting.
Well, I was just going to say I don't, and then the only other game that is bloody the Division Heartland, which is another sign that Ubisoft have run out of ideas. This is just, what was it? Which was the Far Cry game set in the Midwest with the weird cult? 5, 4, 5, 6, 10?
Yeah, it was 5, and it's kind of spin-off.
Yeah, there you go. So that's essentially, the Division Heartland. So it's the Division Far Cry 5 Cult Edition.
But
and it's free to play bullshit.
Yeah, there were no mentions of Beyond Good and Evil 2 for
What
Christmas.
A shock!
Is anyone surprised?
What a shock! I am shocked. This has come as such a surprise. In fact, this is so much of a surprise that I am shocked.
First reaction, shock. Francesco.
Yeah.
I am shocked that there was no mention of Division 2, just as I am also shocked that there is a funeral preceding a death.
No,
These are things that never happen.
wait. Actually, they mentioned the Division 2. They're still going to make.
But Beyond Good and Evil 2, whatever I'm on about. You know what I mean. They're all the same anymore. It is that Ubisoft game, but different skin.
They have a big map with question marks.
I say, even their driving games, The Crew 2 or whatever it was, that was just another Ubisoft game. They even had tower segments in, but you just drove to the tower instead of driving up the tower.
It's a trademark.
I say,
they can't do without that.
There's no such thing as a different Ubisoft game now. They're all the same game.
It's not true. Rainbow Six Extraction doesn't have any question marks.
Give it time. It's only because the current Rainbow Six Extraction is only the alpha release. They're putting in the open world now as we speak.
Okay.
Anyway, I think we've talked for quite a while. Let's we're coming to we're running quite long actually. Surprisingly, talked longer than I expected. So, what are we all playing? Come on, Francesco.
I can finally talk about Steel Rising because I've been playing it for a while and the embargo lifted last week, so we can talk about that. And I wish they didn't make it almost.
Yeah, me too.
When the problem is that on paper it sounded interesting, but then when you play it, you just wish you didn't. Maybe not. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but there are it's competent. I mean, it works somewhat, and it has all those things that now make the Souls-like genre, which is I think it's a stupid label, but they're using it, so I'm going with that.
Yeah.
You got the weighty combat. You lose experience points when you die. You can customize your stats. You have a lot of different weapons, stamina-based combat. But they're just on the surface. You say, okay, this sounds nice, but then you play it and it's clunky. Really, there's no other way to describe it. And there are massive balancing issues. There's this. I think we talked about that off podcast. That there is this weapon that you get at the beginning of the game that inflicts ice damage, and when it builds up, you freeze enemies. Yeah, you freeze enemies on the spot. And this works. This works on bosses. It works on pretty much every boss. I think just one. I think the second or the third boss has high ice resistance. You can still freeze them. It just needs more hits. The thing is, this is a ranged weapon, and it has long range. You can just stay in the back, shoot, freeze, critical hit, and then rinse and repeat. And you can do this with every enemy. The problem is, this is the only remotely fun way to play the game. Because, melee weapons feel terrible to use. Because enemies don't react to it. They have this, I think it's called impact stat, that it's like the poise in the Dark Souls game. The problem is that it's badly balanced because every enemy resists at least a couple of hits. So when you're hitting with a heavy weapon, you just get hit back again. And there's also some weird stuff. I don't know if they fixed it. I don't think so because I didn't see the game get updated. You can buy in the shop. You can buy items that give you experience, but you buy those items with the experience. It's called anima, and when you use these items to gain experience, it's less than the cost you paid. I don't know why they're in. I don't know why. I thought it was like I thought they would remove them when the game launched, and I don't think they did. So why? I don't know. Seems like they just rushed development and then. Almost like if they were forced to do something like this. I don't know. Because I think there are issues at the design level.
I think Francesco spoke to their CEO, I think, not long ago. And basically she said, well, I didn't want to make it, but the team did.
Oh, that was me, you mean? Not Francesco. Yeah, it was me. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not. Yeah, I thought it was a joke. This is why I was laughing. But yeah, I did not. Yeah, I knew about this, that the team wanted to do it, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
They got the they just got these elements on the surface, but I think they just need to take a better look at why these games, why you make a game like this, and what you want to achieve with it. Because I think they kind of missed the mark. I mean, they could have made a regular action RPG without the stamina combat, for example. It probably would have worked well. It would have worked better, or even a traditional RPG, because I think the setting is one of the things that works well.
And,
I don't know really. This is why I say it's probably at the design phase that they had. The issues start there, and then when they made the game, at that point you just follow what you came up with, and then doesn't really work.
I mean,
it's okay. If you're looking for something like, you just want to have 15 hours bashing robots, and well, more than bashing robots, freezing them before bashing them, because this is the optimal way to play. I mean, it's fine, but they're selling it at a high price too, which is not really justified. I don't know how it runs on consoles, but on PC it has massive issues. I mean, there's a problem with the textures that they just eat so much VRAM at every resolution. Even DLSS is not doing anything to help this, and I don't know.
I've read that basically, if you want to use ultra textures, you need more than 13 gigabytes of VRAM. So
it's unjustified, because it's not like they're that much high quality.
And and basically, I'm still very much disappointed that they are not switching engines, because I mean, it's pretty clear that they can't optimize their own engine. And but there are many options, especially the Unreal Engine. It's going to be so much easier, and even provide better visuals, honestly.
I probably would have played better too, because
and so it's kind of weird. And also, about the Souls, like, I was disappointed as soon as I heard they were doing it instead of Gridfall 2, which is coming but later.
You loved it, really.
Their combat systems were always kind of clunky, even in the Technomancer or Gridfall. So they would have had to hire some very, very, specialized experts to improve it and make it.
Well, they didn't. They didn't.
So I'm kind of sad for them, because I'm rooting for them to make a proper, RPG, Bioware-like RPG, which is what they were making before.
But they probably will when they make the, what is it? Greedfall 2. Yeah, I expect they will be.
From the looks of it, they're still using that shitty engine, though, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Don't know why. But.
Well, a few minutes. What are you playing then, Alessio?
Well, actually, I did play something new this week. But it's not a new game. I just grabbed it from Game Pass, where it recently became available, and it's a Ubisoft game, but it's not Assassin's Creed game. It's Immortals Phoenix Rising, which Francesco reviewed. And of course, it has a lot of the trappings of the, like you said, Ubisoft open world game, but it is also a bit more endearing, I think, in tone. There's a lots of more humor, and it's not innovative in any way from what I've seen, but it seems fun enough. So I'm not sure if I'm going to play through the whole of it, but for now I'm kind of intrigued. So Francesco, maybe
it's not that long. Yeah, it's not that long. So you probably can. If you just go for the main quests and ignore most of there's a lot of I don't remember what they were called. The puzzle areas. I don't remember their name, but there are a lot of those. We can just skip most of them because it's just minor upgrades. It's not really that important.
Yeah, I was kind of stuck on the first puzzle where you have to collect kind of blue balls and bring them to the.
You know, to be honest, that is one of the best parts of the game, though, because some of the puzzles are really fun, and you have to use your powers. It's the best part, but if you start doing all of them, you're going to burn out. You burn yourself out on the game and not finish it.
I guess. Well, maybe I can get back to them after a while. Maybe if I don't find the solution right away. But it's pretty good, I guess, for especially considering it's on Game Pass. So it is included. So
it's I think it's probably the best game that Ubisoft put out that year. I think over time I prefer it to Assassin's Creed Valhalla because it's more compact, it's less dispersive. Because Assassin's Creed Valhalla, like we said, goes on forever.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see if they make a sequel eventually.
It's rumored they are, but they say it's. I think Jeff Grubb said that it's very early in development, so we're not going to see it probably in 2-3 years, maybe more.
Okay, Chris, what are you playing?
Coughing. I'll just quickly run through because we are running quite long now. I did play a preview build of Plague Tale Requiem. That the preview's up now, so that's all fine. 2 chapters of that, really good. Just really good. And I am actually going to, after we talked about it a week ago, today I'm going to, after writing a few more little things, probably finishing this next preview I'm doing, after finishing the Dark Tide preview, I'll write one more and then I'm going to play the demo thing of Deerfield Chronicles. Yes. So I'm actually going to play that today.
Yeah. I tried that as well a bit, the demo, and it's pretty good. Although I must say I'm not very fond of real-time tactical games. I generally prefer turn-based tactical games.
Well, we know what I'm like. I play any sort of strategy tactics game. So yeah, so I'll try Deerfield. And other than that, I think that's everything from me.
Yeah.
In fact, we've been going quite a bit, so I think that's everything from all of us. Oh, dying again. So we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
And
bye.
Enjoy all. Bye.